from Dave and Buster's. I actually got it at Dave and Buster's and filled it with liquor and brought it back to Dave and Buster's and drank out of it for a while.
Nice. Does it have any is it just is it blank or does it have like a logo on it?
So it's actually got like a little Dave and Buster's.
Yeah. Okay, so it is. It's like it's etched in the side of it.
Remember, brought to you by Dave and Buster's.
Dave and Buster's. Welcome to Culture Copia, the podcast where we discuss all things pop culture, from the movies and games we loved as a kid to new releases and everything in between, and just about anything else that pops in our heads. Rob, Greg, you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
State and Lisa, we would go to Dave and Buster's.
Yeah.
I still have points, and I went back and got like 3 shot glasses and like 2 pint glasses.
Well,
nice.
I got a shot glass that it's like 2 and one. It has a little plastic divider, so you can put like two liquors or like
that's fun.
Like a chaser kind of in it.
Yeah, you make like a car bomb or something.
Well, we used to go at least every we'd pick a day in February because
that was all our birthday.
Yeah, Amy's birthday is February 9th. Greg is the 14th. Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
I'm the 23rd, and then Matt, my best friend Matt, he's March 9th, so we'd pick like a day in late February.
Nice.
Yeah.
All celebrate together.
There's
fun times.
There's a big casino right over there, Hollywood Amphitheater or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could stay there. I'm thinking about staying there sometime, like getting pitched to Dave and Buster's and going back there, just staying there for the night.
Mm-hmm.
I did that at the hotel that's next to it. There's another hotel, but I don't recommend that hotel after staying there for the night, dude. It's sketchy.
Yeah.
It's sketchy.
Huh. You could sleep in your car.
That would have been preferable, honestly. If you wake up in the morning and find like little spots of what could be bed bugs and shit, you're like, fuck me, I don't want to bring this back to my house.
Right. We've got to burn our clothes right here.
It was all good.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, guys,
but
we are live.
We are live.
First video ever.
Love it.
It's been a long journey to get to this point. I was just telling everybody how, I don't know, I'm just really excited that we got to this level of quality, and this is like what we're gonna have in store for next season. It's gonna be balls to the walls and trying to get the podcast up and going and getting views and this back of house stuff. So everybody, welcome to Culture Copia podcast. I'm your host Robert. With me too is Matt, Greg, and Nate. If you're new to the topic or new to the podcast, basically what we do is we talk all things pop culture.
Yeah,
we do.
So, on that note, Matt, why don't I turn it over to you and let's go through our topics for the topic of the day. And
topic of today is the one, the only, Mr. Matt Groening.
Matt Groening.
Woo! Matt Groening. He's from Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
And believe it or not, I don't know if this is official, but everything that I've read, he's actually hinted quite a bit. The big mystery is, where is Springfield, USA?
Right.
And there's actually, I was reading this article, and people were kind of starting to piece things together. There were certain things like the radio stations start with the call letter. The call letters start with K instead of W.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which suggests that it's definitely west of the Mississippi.
Okay, I see. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And they say, like, you think about like Springfield, it has like a mountain.
Yeah.
It's got a gorge.
Yeah.
It's by the ocean.
So a lot of evidence has suggested that Springfield, USA is in Oregon.
Right.
And Matt Groening himself has actually said that, so I don't know if you know this, the Simpsons are based off of his family.
He named them like Homer and Marge are his mom and dad.
Yeah. So
he's got 2 sisters.
Yeah, he is.
Well, he's got 4.
He is Bart. Bart is based off of Matt Groening as a child.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. And so, and he has said that, so this is all based off his family, and he did loosely base the city of Springfield off of he came from a small town outside of Portland.
Right.
Huh.
And he says Bart is just like a wordplay on the word brat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for sure.
That's why he picked Bart.
Yeah.
For himself.
Yeah.
Okay.
But let's rewind a little bit. He actually, so he started out in his early 20s, moved to LA to become a writer. There, he actually created the comic strip Life in Hell, which you may have seen. It's like a little bunny character.
Yeah, it was
similar
to some of the
animation style.
Okay, got it.
Like
okay.
the
Simpsons.
The Krusty the Clown skits, I think you can see some of the rabbit ear animation come
Yeah.
out.
Yeah,
Was it based off of that kind of thing?
I think it was similar, probably. I don't know like how popular it was at the time. I do know that that's what caught the eye of the producer of the Tracy Ullman Show.
Right.
And that's where we had the birth of this family, the Simpsons. Yep. Pretty fucking cool.
And Life in Hell was pretty much just a story about living in LA. Because he just worked like a bunch of dead-end jobs.
That's true.
You know, like trying to get this writer position or whatever. So he's working all these dead-end jobs, and so he kind of made that comic Life in Hell.
It's interesting. It's been like autobiographical for him since the beginning. He's making like art to life like directly, as opposed to just something random. Yeah, I didn't know that.
You know, I mean, having that sort of inspiration, I'm sure. You know, I mean, obviously, it's taken him a long way. So
what are they, 30-something seasons now? I mean, the Simpsons keep rolling, dude. It's one of the longest animated shows.
Do you know off the top of your head? I don't know.
It's probably outpacing like One Piece at this point.
It might be. It might be. It is. I think it is the longest running primetime series.
I think so too. I can't think of a longer running series than that.
No, I think it passed that mark a long time ago.
Yeah,
and it's still on.
And the reason
season 35.
The reason that I say longest running primetime series is because you can't even you can't even hold a flame to like daytime soap operas.
Right.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, because I think like Days of Our Lives has been on since like what 1965 or something. So and it's still running today. Like you know, General Hospital and you know all of those. Like so, you know, there's definitely it's not overall the longest running television series, but definitely the longest running primetime series. It passed past Gunsmoke, I think, was the old
that old Western back in the 70s or something.
Yeah, and I think Gunsmoke held the record at like 20 or 21 seasons.
Yes,
for years, and then The Simpsons finally passed that. Obviously, about 15 years ago. Huh. Yeah. So, yeah, and just I mean, dude, like, you know, like we said, I mean, we discuss all things pop culture here. And like Simpsons, you know, we've made the joke.
We constantly reference it.
Simpsons did it, you know, and that in and of itself is a South Park reference, but it's like it rings true, you know. It's like Simpsons did it, man. Like, you know, I remember like when Family Guy first came out, and there was a lot of like, oh, Family Guy is just like plagiarizing The Simpsons, and it's like everybody's plagiarizing The Simpsons. Like,
right.
At this point, real life is plagiarizing The Simpsons.
Which that brings me into like one of the. Have you seen like the myth that The Simpsons predicts the future?
Right.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. And you know what's funny? I kind of wonder about one specific person because I've now seen several interviews with Conan O'Brien. Where he has done similar things, where he's predicted like there's a video of him talking to Danny Masterson from That 70s Show.
Oh, right.
And he's like making a joke about like, you know, sexual misconduct, and he's like Conan O'Brien's like, yeah, I've heard about you. He's like, you're gonna go down at some point. You know, like, and he was kind of saying it as like a joke, but you could tell he was kind of like, you know, there's a little nugget of truth there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know this, but Conan O'Brien was a writer on The Simpsons for years.
I did know that.
So I wonder about him specifically, and I'm like, how many of those episodes was he involved in where they've predicted the future? And like, is he some sort of clairvoyant?
Yeah.
I don't know. I love Conan O'Brien, though.
Yeah, it's interesting because that show has such a gigantic platform and so many people watching it. At some point, you got to wonder if you put the idea out there and you have enough people hear this idea, does it start to, you know, come up as the probability of it increases. If you tell everybody it's going to happen, do people start thinking that's going to happen?
Right.
I don't know if the Simpsons are like priming reality in a way.
Yeah. There might be people like sitting there watching, or some people that even take it a little too far, and they're like relying on that for like, what's the future hold? Yeah. I don't know.
Not so much a crystal ball, but like a subconscious like story that goes in there. Because I feel like when I watch television, I'm aware of like maybe, I don't know, 2/3 of it, but then there's like a third of advertising that goes in the back of my brain, and then I find myself quoting The Simpsons like crazy. Yeah, it's like it becomes part of my catchphrases with my friends. I've got buddies that all we did was quote The Simpsons at each other. That was most of our high school relationship. Like we'd come to a homeroom and we'd make Simpsons jokes for like 25 minutes straight.
Yeah,
right.
That was cool.
Even some like obscure references. Like I was at the grocery store with my wife one day, and we were like in the produce section. There were like tomatoes, and I just made like a joke about tobacco. Like for no reason. Like of course she understands because she's got the same weird sense of humor and like the same interests as me. So
that was a good episode.
But like if you just say that to like any person, like there's a good chance they don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Was that a Treehouse of Horror episode?
No, I don't think so.
No, it was just a regular episode.
Okay. All this time I was smoking harmless tobacco.
Right.
No, it's it's one of those things. It's just kind of it's bled over into even our everyday lives, like you said. Just like
I mean, The Simpsons gave us a whole different thing to talk about. And they were on so often too. You could always look forward to a Simpsons episode coming out. And that time when they were really popular too, not a lot of stations to pick from. At my place it was like 6, 10, 12. You're tuning in like antenna at that point.
Right.
So everybody's catching The Simpsons, man.
It's true. Yeah, they were on Fox.
On Fox?
Yeah, that was always one of the local stations you could get.
Let me ask you guys, when you started watching The Simpsons, was it like... So, the first time I saw The Simpsons, my parents were watching The Simpsons.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And we weren't allowed to watch The Simpsons at this point. Simpsons were like kind of edgy.
Right.
Yeah.
So we had to sneak in and like watch The Simpsons on the low type of thing. What was the experience with you guys? Where did you first get
I
to
remember
watch The
first episode I seen was a Treehouse of Horror, probably that first one. But I just remember it being on TV because Dad was watching. But we watched it together as like a family.
Yeah.
Instantly, and like we all had T-shirts.
Yeah.
And that
that's fun.
It took over very quickly at the house.
I don't know. My parents weren't really into it. They weren't like against it. It wasn't like it's not that I wasn't allowed, but they just weren't. It wasn't their thing. So I remember first watching it at my neighbor's house. I had some neighbors that were around my age, when I was a kid, and like hung out and played with them. Right. And like their family liked it. They would watch it. And I don't remember the joke. I just remember that it was a Ralphie Wiggum quote, and he said something, and I about pissed myself laughing, and I was like,
these snowflakes taste like fish sticks.
Right? Yeah, it was some, and I just remember like thinking, okay, like this is funny. I could see this being something I'd be into. And even then, I didn't watch it regularly, but if I just like caught it and it was on, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is that show that So
oh man, I watched
kind of grew from there
all the time. I remember because it would come on at 6 and 6:30.
Yeah,
here, and I remember watching it like and having to miss like the last half of the second episode because we had Boy Scouts. So that was like one of the days during the...
that's right, because they always had one that was like on repeat, right? There was always one that was on repeat, and then at like 7, right? That's when it... Right? That's when the new episode would come out?
I don't know.
There for a while.
Yeah, in our local...
Well, I think it hit syndication.
The repeat, and then we'd have the new one.
Yeah.
We'd look forward to the new, but catch the repeat during the week.
Oh, yeah, no, you're
Fox
right.
Fox did like a thing where it was like for a while they would do like a repeat episode, and then they'd have the brand new one.
I think for a while in the 90s and even like into the 2000s, that was a thing for most sitcoms was... It would be like you said, like let's say the new episode comes on at 7, at 6:30 it would be the repeat of the new episode from the week before.
Yeah, it probably yeah. It'd be like a in case you missed it kind of thing. Yeah.
Recap.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that was now, dude, who even?
Well, they made it a big deal. Remember they advertised it was like Simpson, and then when it got further on, it was like Simpsons marathon or whatever they would do. And
I remember when FX the channel came out on cable, and they got the rights, obviously, to Simpsons.
Yeah.
So, like,
because it's a Fox.
every episode ever.
Oh
And
yeah,
they played the
Okay, maybe that's what
the
I'm
entire series.
Maybe that's
It
maybe
was
I
like
could be
the
thinking
whole
of that.
year. FX was just showing
yeah.
the Simpsons.
It was they just did them in order. Like
I remember being like super excited, like hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, was that FX or was that when they did FXX?
Oh, it might have been FXX.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was when they did it because I know it had been on for a while, so it was a huge deal because it was like they're gonna show every episode, like that's gonna take up so much
Right.
airtime,
Right.
and it did, and they just like you said, they just played them. Yeah,
Why
it was
not?
crazy.
People are gonna watch.
Nate,
yeah,
Nate,
that's
you said
mega.
something about you would go and quote people. You'd quote like jokes, Simpsons jokes for like 20 minutes with your friends and shit. I'm a lot like that with South Park, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it's so South Park. I wonder if South Park would even exist if it weren't not for the Simpsons.
Oh, we can't, dude. You can't even like so. This
Okay, but the
again,
reason why I say that is because when the Simpsons came out, Bart was like all the kids wanted to be like Bart,
Yeah,
right? And the
yeah.
parents are like, "Oh hell no,
eat my shorts.
he's
Dude,
a bad influence on our kids." It was a thing. Like there was like a
Oh, yeah.
like a
He was-
huge blowback, right?
Yeah,
Okay, then a number of years later,
yeah.
South Park comes out, right? And it's the same.
I would
It's the
say it's even
same
more
thing.
extreme.
Absolutely,
Bart's
it's more
like, eat
extreme.
my shorts, and Stan is like, bleep,
Yeah.
swearing at
Dude,
people.
Eric
Right,
Cartman
right.
fed
In a cartoon.
Scott Tenorman's parents to
that
him.
was so.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and-
but
and no, like,
yeah, it was shocking.
And I agree with you, and that's what I'm saying. Is, you like when we're talking about the Simpsons and we talk about the influence that they've had, dude, you can't even like South Park, Bob's Burgers, Family Guy. You know, I mean, any of the like none of that would exist. I think you're right.
Right.
I mean, maybe we would have gotten there, but it wouldn't be the same.
I don't think it would be the
It
same.
wouldn't be the same
Yeah,
without
it
that
takes a
influence.
forerunner. Yeah, I mean, someone to make that critical mass to even demand like animated cartoon content that's funny.
Yeah.
Simpsons got on Tracy Ullman. They made a platform and built
Yeah.
a lane, and so then I think South Park. I mean, it would be interesting to ask those guys what they say. You know, I bet they
Right.
attribute some of it.
Oh,
and
sure.
then Seth MacFarlane's. I'm sure he's a fan.
Oh yeah, he's
Yeah.
even said, like I said, even when a lot of that, like when Family Guy first came out and they were like, oh, they're just copying the Simpsons and stuff, and he's like, yeah, no, but like of course I'm inspired by them, like
Right.
like so.
Absolutely.
And Seth MacFarlane, I mean, I'm not even a huge like Family Guy, American Dad, like that kind of stuff. Like I'm not super into it, but like him just as like a content creator and writer, producer, like actor, voice actor, singer.
I mean,
he's-
like I'm getting ready to say, like
He's good.
South
Yeah.
MacFarlane's got fucking chops, man.
He does.
Yeah.
Like all around.
And I have mad respect for him.
But I'll
And his
give-
movies are hilarious.
I'd put him on equal footing at Trey Parker and Matt Stone for acting
Sure.
chops. I think Trey is the singer out of the two. I don't think
well,
Matt
they
Stone.
both kind of.
Yeah?
Yeah. They both kind of do.
Okay,
but
but I will say
Trey does a lot more of the like.
Seth MacFarlane is a way better singer than fucking Trey.
Well, Seth MacFarlane has that like that Vegas lounge singer style.
Yeah.
That Sinatra.
Well, and it's also his voice too.
Yeah,
right? Like,
he's
his voice really.
he's really
plays
into that jazzy.
Like big band.
yeah, he's really into
scene.
that.
Right.
He's in Sing.
Yeah, I knew that.
He plays that little mouse.
Yeah.
And he does a Sinatra song in
Yeah.
that. I think.
Uh-huh.
I think he sings "My Way."
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's fucking it's like,
Dude.
dude's fucking great. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, none of those guys. Look, I mean, you could sit there and like you said, you put them in kind of the same category, and let's say we're talking about these like comedy animated shows, and there's we'll say like Knights of the Round Table, if you will, but like Matt Groening is the king.
Oh, absolutely.
He's the King Arthur of the
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I would totally agree with that.
Yeah.
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 But I mean, then so similarly to Nate's question about the Simpsons, I was wondering about like how you guys got exposed to like Futurama.
Ooh, okay. So
Yeah.
I'll just say up front, that's my favorite.
Yeah.
Mine
Simpsons,
too.
awesome. Futurama.
That
I love Futurama.
Was it
Right.
just because you were already a fan of The Simpsons, so you
Yeah.
were like...
Simpsons definitely made it easy to discover it, because I don't remember exactly when I saw the first episode, but it was around the time, probably like 13, 14 or something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
And the world of it I liked. It was the interplanetary thing that drew me into it. It was
Right.
Simpsons in space.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all took.
That's what got me like, hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Seemed right up my alley. And yeah, it was probably because I was a Simpsons fan. It's like, well, yeah, I'm going to watch this.
It was so the characters like Bender was a great, hilarious,
all
the
the
robot.
Oh man, there's so many
Leela
good
kicking
characters.
ass, and she's Peg Bundy,
Yeah.
voiced
Right.
by I
Yeah.
forget the actress name.
Katie Seagal.
Yep.
Katie
Yeah.
Seagal. Yeah, great voice acting there. The character of Fry's
Solid
hilarious.
reference.
Good news, everybody.
Good news,
everyone.
You're like,
So-
oh
Bosworth,
shit.
Yes.
dude. Oh my goodness.
So the reason I ask you that is because, and I remember the kid's name, and I'm not going to say it because that'd be fucked up. But there was a kid at my school who was like obsessed with Futurama, right? And I hated this fucking kid, so I did not want to watch Futurama.
Because you didn't want to admit that you liked it
like
too.
yeah, just on like principle of like this kid like will not shut up about this show, and I already hate him. Like so like.
Yeah.
You know, it was just, it was one of those things, like, transitively, I was like, I think I hate this show. But then when I finally, like, got around to, like, giving it a chance, I was like, okay, you know, I should have been, I don't think I would have been, like, friends with that kid. But, you know, I was like, maybe I should have given it a chance sooner and not judged it based just on him. But
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. A lot of the writing and just like maybe the stories and stuff I do like a lot better in Futurama.
Right.
And that's not
I'll
to
agree.
say that I'm not a huge Simpsons fan, because I think overall I still do love and appreciate the Simpsons more. But what I think is like, by the time Futurama came out, Simpsons were like insanely successful.
Right.
You know, and Matt Groening at that point, he could take a risk. You know, and we've talked about this, especially with comedy, and especially with comedy around that time. That was a huge thing, like taking that risk and, you know, like making that leap of just like, I'm gonna take a leap of faith, and I'm gonna put out the content that I really want to, and just hope I find an audience for it.
I felt like that about watching that show too. Some of the bits they would do in Futurama maybe couldn't show up in The Simpsons as easily.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Some of the things, like, for example, the episode where they're eating poplars. I don't know if you remember, they go to another planet.
One of my
Yeah.
favorites.
They've got these golden shrimp-looking,
Right.
delicious...
Yeah.
Turns out they're baby.
Papa in
Right.
your mouth.
And Leela, I remember her standing there. She takes one. She's like shocked. She found out the news that these things are actually tiny babies. She's like, and then pops one in her mouth.
Right. Right.
That's the commercial.
One of my favorite scenes from that episode. Okay, they come back around and they're like, he wants to eat the number of people that ate poplars, or the number of poplars. Okay, so it'd wipe out the. So they settled that he would eat one human.
Yeah.
Right, and they substituted Leela for a fucking
A hippie, right?
no, an orangutan.
Oh,
Right,
Oh,
and then he ate the fucking hippie. That part, he eats the hippie. And he's like, oh,
man.
Yeah.
that don't
Right.
feel so good.
Right.
One of my favorite scenes. All
I
time.
forgot about that.
That guy was from Omicron Perseon
Yeah,
8.
Yep.
What was it, Lore? Something like that?
Yeah, lure.
Yeah.
Isn't there a there's just a lot of like funny little stupid jokes, like you said, the Omicron
Or the human horn episode.
oh my god, the lower horn.
Yeah, the lower horn.
Your lower horn. Oh
And Bender's
no.
like, why are you after his nose?
Yeah.
And they're like, it's like, no. And Bender like
Yeah.
rats him out. Like,
Yeah.
It's so funny. It reminds me of the one where they go to a planet and it's Zap Brannigan's in the episode.
Oh, yeah.
I love
The
Zap
Valora
Brannigan.
Fog. Zap Brannigan. That guy cracks me up.
I love him, and I hate him, and I love to hate him,
Right.
and I hate to love him.
Yeah.
And I mean, and
well,
you
it's William Shatner.
I was gonna say, yeah,
you
he's-
know, so it's spoofing off of him, and then it's
Yeah.
like if you're a Trek fan, you
which
know,
I am.
right. So but I guess it's like William Shatner, La 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 la.
Oh yeah, that was.
I mean, they even do
one.
that in
that
the.
was a good one. Yeah.
But I'm talking about Shatner's like.
Oh yeah,
video
like,
that he
or
did.
like when he did Rocket Man. I love Shatner though. You ever watch Boston Legal?
Oh yeah,
with him and James Spader.
Oh, they're so funny.
I've never seen
Dude,
it.
What's that dude's? Denny Crane.
Denny Crane.
I love that he gets on that reputation. Like nobody challenges him.
Yeah, Denny Crane.
Denny Crane.
If you haven't watched that, definitely I think it's on Hulu. It's actually a spin-off of the show The Practice. And I wasn't a huge fan of The Practice. And I think James Spader's character, Alan Shore, he was on, I think, like the last season or 2 seasons of The Practice. And so he was like the one character that like carried over.
Okay.
You know, so, you know, and I've watched The Practice a little bit, but it's nowhere near on the caliber of Boston Legal.
Boston Legal, the running comedy routine of that show kept me coming back to it.
And those two.
The other one's a little too serious. That one's
the
right amount of funny.
That is a pairing that, like, who would have ever guessed? Like, James Spader and William Shatner.
I want a poster of them drinking scotch on their patio.
And smoking cigars. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Maybe that's how we'll end every episode.
That'd be sweet.
We could do that. Like, I mean, I could do it. Like, we could just do that one video and then put it at the end of each episode.
Right. in some really nice suits.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
I love that.
Yeah.
Have you guys watched any Disenchantment?
I haven't watched that yet.
Yes.
Yeah. It's on, I think, Netflix, right?
Yeah, it's
I'm
on Netflix.
season 2 of that. I put
Yeah.
it down a little while ago.
I like it.
I liked it.
Yeah.
And that's like medieval
Yeah.
kind
Yeah,
of
kind of.
Like
story. Yeah.
And that's another one of those two that I think, you know, like I said with Matt Groening, I think it was just like, dude, I just want to. It's just something I want to do. He's at the point, like, you know, when you've made something like The Simpsons, and you know, we all know the term "fuck you" money. He almost has like a "fuck you" like reputation. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
not even necessarily "fuck you" money, which he probably does, but like
He'd have to, man, with the Simpsons going on, because
Yeah.
I mean, eventually, like even Matt Stone and Jay Parker are like,
yeah.
we need to think about wrapping it up. You
Yeah.
know, let's.
Well,
they
and
didn't.
you know-
They didn't start out wanting to do that for.
As long
the
as they
rest of
have,
it,
you
yeah.
know, and but you know what?
But they keep paying them money.
Yeah, and I would put them in that same category of like having like the fuck you money, but like the fuck you reputation, because they're at the point where they can do whatever the fuck they want to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
pretty
Book of
much.
Mormon,
Yeah,
they didn't
yeah.
have to do that; they just
Yeah.
wanted to.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of how I feel about like Disenchantment.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's one of those things that Matt Groening's just like, dude, I don't even care if nobody watches this. I want to do this.
Yeah.
Something to do.
I
Stay
won't surprise.
busy.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that he wanted to, you know, I mean, you have to think, I mean, I love The Simpsons, but you got to think he's probably bored of it by now.
My view on that show is like there's different types of comedy. Like Simpsons is like just overgeneralized completely.
Yeah.
A very broad, family-friendly type of comedy. Futurama
Yeah,
is
at
a
this
little bit
point.
more wacky, kind of out there comedy.
Yeah.
That show to me is like dark humor. There's
Yeah.
a lot of people falling off of cliffs. A lot
Yeah.
of people catching like
Yeah.
a rough break where they bounce off the ground and die. And it's funny the way he frames it. So like if you find
Are you talking
dark
about
humor-
Disenchantment?
Disenchantment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. People are getting their heads bitten off, but it's done in like a way that's really funny if you like that kind of comedy.
I want to bring up something you just said. If you would have told like conservative, you know, parents in the early 90s that we would be describing The Simpsons as a family-friendly, you know, animated series, that would have blown their minds, because at that time they were like, you know, like we said, you know, like I think Rob brought up the point, you know, of like, you know, before South Park and everything, it was like, oh, like Bart Simpson's such a bad influence on our kids, and like now he's so tame. You know, you talked about like, you know, like Eric Cartman.
Yeah, or
Fed a
especially
kid's
like, okay,
parents
and
to
then
him.
that brings up that episode, the Family Guy episode, right, in South Park, right, and he meets Bart in the fucking like office or whatever, Fox, right,
Right.
and he's like, "What did you know?" Like they're comparing, like, "What's the worst thing you ever done?" And Bart's like, "Well, I cut the head off of Jebediah Springfield and like hit it from
The statue.
Yeah, the statue,
Yeah, the
right?
statue.
Okay, and then Carton's like, "Yeah, that's cool." I chopped up a kid's parents and fed it to him,
Yeah.
and then Bart like just like
He's like-
walks out.
Right.
You got me, man.
Right.
So yeah, it's funny how, I mean, 30 years ago now, or more than that now.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a desensitization effect over time. You know, it's just what was edgy is just how many times can you eat my shorts? I mean, maybe it's edgy the first time. Oh, he wants him to eat underwear.
So the thing is though, these cartoons aren't necessarily geared for kids anyway. But of course, they're cartoons. Yeah, kids are going to be attracted. You know,
I think that was the big point, like when it first came out too.
Yeah, it's like this is not meant for kids. So have a little bit of parental responsibility if you don't want your kids to watch it. Nowadays it's difficult.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a free for all these days. We were fighting Marilyn Manson at this point. We were mad at like certain types of music. He's out there doing Satan stuff. I feel like they tried and they lost, and now entertainment continues rolling on. Like it keeps getting more extreme as to what people consider like the teen level.
Right.
You know, I know when I play like teen or M-rated games on PlayStation, there's kids up in there in that lobby shooting right back at you.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, they were watching The Simpsons. Now they're playing Call of Duty. It's it's kind of a free for all.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why Disenchanted kind of makes sense right now, because maybe America's ready for a little bit more of dark, morbid kind of Simpsons comedy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
You know, so that's why I was digging that one.
Yeah, I mean, you put all this together, and is it fair to say that Matt Groening is a genius? Yeah, of course.
I would give him that, absolutely.
But I mean, I feel like it goes so much further than that, especially at this point, like we've been talking about. The Simpsons, regardless of how controversial it might have been in the beginning, it's become a household. They become a household name, and it's more family friendly. Comparatively speaking to what a lot of things that have come out since, and and that is something that not sure he's a genius, but he's also brought something really special into the world and into our lives, something we can all bond over.
Absolutely.
Maybe not everybody, it might not be for everybody, but even if you don't like it, who the Simpsons are. Those characters.
That style of drawing, too.
And I don't think I've ever met a single person who says, I hate the Simpsons. Right. Like, I know people that are like, that's not really my thing and I don't really watch it. But I've never met somebody who's like, I tried it and it was terrible.
Right.
Yeah, there's something there for everybody, I think.
Tori's kind of like that. She's like, she would, if I'm watching like adult cartoons, she'd rather me watch South Park than anything else, right? She just doesn't get it. And I'm like, dude, some of the, like, even some of the Simpsons episodes are, for example, the Tree. I kind of on Halloween, I try and watch as many Treehouse of Horror episodes.
Oh yeah, especially those older ones.
Yeah, the older ones.
Oh,
and so that was one of them. And The Raven came on, and she she's like, okay. Yeah. And I was like, I mean, it's not just crude humor. I mean, some of their funniest jokes and shit like that are like really articulate, really educated jokes.
Oh, dude,
if you really think about them.
Yeah, I mean, when I say Matt Groening's a genius, I mean, obviously, pop culture wise, and what he's done, in the TV game, but like, he's obviously a very smart person. And all these guys that we're talking about, Trey Parker, Matt Stone, Seth MacFarlane, like they're smart.
Who did King of the Hill and Beavis and Butthead?
Mike Judge.
Yeah. So
Mike Judge, you got to give him credit too.
You know what I'm saying?
Another smart person.
Right.
They're smart people. They, a lot, like you said, those jokes, there's a lot of thought behind them, and they're educated jokes.
Well, let's be honest, man. Back in the day, especially with like South Park, the way that they animated those, you really got to be a fucking nerd to go in there and arrange those pieces of cutouts frame by frame.
Yeah.
Right. Like that takes a lot of fucking patience.
Oh yeah, that was, and that it really does. Well, King of the Hill is another good example of something that, like, on the surface it looks like one thing, and then when you start to like get into the writing and the humor and the jokes, and it'd be easy to just make a show based in Texas about these rednecks who like feel a certain way, and like have certain ideals and principles and stick to them and things like that. But it's not. It's smarter, and there's a lot more give and take to the story. I kind of equate that to like the old like All in the Family with Archie Bunker. You know, that was a character you look at and you're like, you know, on the surface you're like, oh, look at this guy, and it's like, yeah, but that's not the point of the character. We're poking fun at those people, you know. Right. You know, it's like, you know, it, and you, of course, you've got people and even like maybe whole generations that take something like that and take it at face value, and they don't understand the satire of it. You know, but when you dive into it and you're like, wow, dude, like this is actually like really, it's really clever, you know, the way that these stories are written and these characters and their development all plays out. Yeah, very cool.
They're very brave to all these different animation, you know, everyone you've mentioned today so far, because they're in court quite a bit over this stuff.
Oh yeah,
they got the Simpsons had to blaze a trail, you know.
Oh yeah,
that you know, that I'll go on Facebook and say something semi-controversial. I might piss off like, you know, 10 of my 100 followers. This guy is putting something on Fox that millions of people are gonna watch,
right?
And he's just putting it out there,
right,
for the nation to see. The bravery to do that, it's up there. And so, you know, these guys blaze a trail. If the Simpsons can do this, you know, they're the vanguard of something next. And yeah.
Speaking of that, have you ever and we'll probably cover South Park one day, so I mean, you know, we're talking a lot about it, but have you ever seen the documentary, like the 6 Days to Air?
I haven't seen 6 Days to Air.
About how they make like the South Park episodes. Well, their main, I think she's like their main editor or like something in the like in the production side. There's like this one lady, and she's like constantly, like every week she's on the phone with like the FCC and like trying to figure out like, okay, so here's our story. Like what she does is like she'll pitch like them the storyboard and tell them like, here's the jokes and here's like all the bad words that we say and like all these, and they're like, you know, like, okay, you can say shit 3 times and cocksucker 2 times, but you gotta leave out like the motherfucker and you gotta leave out this. So like she's almost like haggling with them like, oh, okay, well if we just say cocksucker 1 time, then can we say fuck 3 times? You know, and it's this like give and take.
Is that the one that came out not too long ago, and they actually kind of went behind the scenes on how it's fully okay? So
and I think
it happened during COVID.
I think it was a little before that, or at least that's when they filmed this stuff.
Yeah,
because I remember them covering when COVID hit.
Yeah,
how they managed to like they had to ship out like all these machines and everything, and like it was like this. And everyone was working from home, and they were still producing.
Yeah, no, it was before that. It was before that. No, this one was more about how they kind of like they kind of pushed themselves into a process where like to stay up to date on all the pop culture stuff. They will literally like they'll storyboard on Wednesday and they'll have to have a full episode done, like written, animated, like finished, edited, produced, and like ready to air by the following Wednesday. Like it's
they do it all in a week, but it's just so they can stay up to date and relevant.
That's why South Park
whatever's going on.
Man, the production team there must be working around the clock.
Oh, it's crazy. And that's what I'm saying. Like they literally have this one lady, like her main job is just to talk like to the censors and figure out what can we get away with this week. Like what are you going to let us do? Because Trey and Matt and the rest of the guys, like everybody in the writer's room, like this is what they came up with, and I know you're not going to let us do all of this. So like she's basically bargaining like what can you do? Like what can we do here?
Right.
You know. But like you said, I mean the blazing of the trail by the Simpsons to kind of open up that, you know, that world and that I mean,
window. You can link all of these adult cartoons back to The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Like, so you almost have to say that, like, it's possible that none of them would exist in the way that they are without The Simpsons first. They were the trailblazer of like, adult animation.
Matt Groening he's a genius and a revolutionary.
Should we talk about Disney at all here? Like the Disney, do you think Simpsons were influenced at all by previous things like the animated longs and shorts that Walt Disney came up with? And because before this, as far as I can think back in American television animation, before the Simpsons, there was kind of Looney Tunes, there were some cartoons, and Disney movies.
Like Viacom had pretty much like all the cartoons there, and it was all kid.
and it was like real kid focused, right? Like
right.
I don't think we're missing anything here. Simpsons came out with like a cartoon that was kind of like geared towards the 14 plus crowd at that point.
That's true. I mean, there were some things I remember, like some old Looney Tunes that like you can't even like find on like you could probably like find them on the internet or something, but like, you know, and maybe it was just that the sense of humor was different back then. But I know there's one where like Daffy Duck like smacks like Adolf Hitler with a hammer or something.
Very patriotic. Yeah.
Like, you know, but it's like, I don't know, was that geared toward kids?
I think some of that stuff, like some of the Disney stuff,
but it wasn't.
layered.
And you'll see some of, like, if you go back to some of the really old ones, I mean, they portray Asian people really bad.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
you know, and it's
true.
because those cartoons were meant for troops overseas.
Yeah,
that's when
I've seen
Looney
a lot of
Tunes and
those.
shit started. That's when they.
Well, and there's a lot of like the Bugs Bunny, like when he dresses up as a girl and stuff. You know, there's that Wayne's World joke, the improvised Dana Carvey line where he says, "You ever find Bugs Bunny attractive when you dress up like a girl bunny?"
He's like, no.
And that laugh, that's Mike Myers actually like losing it and laughing because that was an improvised line by Dana Carvey.
Me neither.
Yeah, me neither. But, you know, I mean, some of that, you know, that's a little risque for, you know, if, like you said, you know, if it's geared toward kids and families, you know, maybe some of that wasn't.
Right.
So you do kind of have to look back. And, yeah, it's a good point, Nate. And Rob. And Greg, fuck it. You know what? Credit to everyone.
Credit to everybody. Disney seems to do some layered stuff sometimes. Like, I think Disney understands that you're going to be watching this maybe with your kid.
Oh,
yeah.
You're going to sit here and watch Cars like, well, that's Pixar, but you're going to watch this movie like 25 times with your kids.
Well, okay.
And there's like a layer of comedy running through it for the adults.
For their age, I was getting ready to say.
Right
over their heads.
And Cars is a good example of that.
Cars.
We were just talking about that, I think, weren't we? No, we weren't. That wasn't me and you. Sorry.
Nah.
Hey, let's pretend. Let's start over. Hey, we were just talking about that, right?
We were.
Oh, yeah.
Like, just before we got here, we were talking about Cars.
Yeah, we drove here. We carpooled.
Right.
Car pulled?
Cool.
I don't know. I'm done. I can't do it anymore.
But for The Simpsons, when you think Simpsons and you're thinking one of your favorite characters, other than, we'll say, like the primary family, if you got to pick somebody outside of like Homer, Marge, and who would you pick? Who comes to mind?
As like a favorite?
As a favorite. We got Ralph Wiggum,
maybe.
Ralph's a good, you know, there's a...
Hans Moleman.
Let's make it
Hans
let's make it a little
Moleman,
more fun. Like
comic book
think
guy.
of a character and then kind of try to do a line or something from that. Why you think it's funny? Like a moment, just hint at something.
Oh God. Okay, so there's one of my favorite jokes. Speaking of, Greg just brought up Hans Moleman. There's a quick little scene where Lisa and Bart are trying to like bully each other, and Lisa's like, "You're gay," and Bart's like, "No, you're gay," and she's like, "You're gay for Mole Man," and he's like, "No, you're gay for Mole Man," and they're like arguing like, "No, I'm not," and like Hans Moleman's sitting there and he's like all sad and he's like, "Nobody's gay for Mole Man," and like we'll quote that one all the time. Like my wife and I Amy's favorite side character is probably Hans Moleman.
Yeah.
She loves the. There's like a film festival episode, and there's like a little short video, and it's like Hans Moleman presents man getting hit by a football. And he just gets hit in the dick with a football.
Okay, well, I think was that at the same one that Barney did?
Barney did one.
And it was like. It's like really elegant and like really like well cinematized, and even at the end it said Finn.
Yeah.
and they're like, Barney, like, what the hell? And he was like, I made a movie?
Yeah. Right.
Barney's another good one.
Yeah, I was going to say, Barney might be mine, even though he's a drunk. And I don't know. There's this... That was the first one I think came to mind.
It's hard to say.
If I had to pick one. That or Bleeding Gums Murphy.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
The saxophone.
Yeah.
I think one of the most underrated... like side characters is Sideshow Bob.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Me personally,
Mm-hmm.
I just I
He's
think
got some good moments.
I think a lot of people don't really get the humor, but first of all, I love Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah.
And I even love the fact that like so his brother Sideshow Cecil is voiced by
David
yeah.
Hyde Park or whatever.
David Hyde Pierce.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Who plays Frasier's
brother.
Right.
Yeah,
I never noticed that.
So those two
on there too.
Yeah. So
that's great.
Yeah, so that was I as far as that goes, that would be my answer to that. As far as my favorite, The Simpsons. I mean, God, there's so many characters.
Cletus?
I mean, look at this.
Yeah,
and that's like what half.
That's not even all.
You know what? Duffman is one of my favorites.
Duffman's good.
Duffman is definitely in my top.
The doctor.
Dr. Hibbert or Dr. Nick?
No. Yeah.
Hi there, Dr.
Dr. Farnsworth.
No, not the doctor. The lawyer guy, but he was also a doc. He would be.
Oh crap, man!
The sleazy
Lionel Hutz.
Lionel Hutz.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, he might be another one.
That is my favorite.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
That's my answer. I love Phil Hartman.
Yeah.
Love Phil Hartman. I was actually just talking to Amy about this. We were watching Kiki's Delivery Service. You ever watch that? Well, in the Americanized version, because it's a Japanese, animated film, the American voiceover, the voice of the cat is, because there's like a talking black cat. It's Phil Hartman. She was watching it. I'm laying in bed and I'm not really watching. I just hear it and I hear the voice and I go, "That's Phil Hartman."
Phil Hartman voice.
What was
Blaster.
Hi, I'm so and so.
Video
You'll
game.
remember me from such videos as blah 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 and
Yeah.
blah blah blah. Who?
Troy McClure.
Troy
McClure.
McClure.
He's another one that I
Yeah.
had to pick. It's
No,
my
Does
faves.
Troy McClure do the voice of Zach Brannigan? Is that the same guy?
I think it is.
Because
might
boy,
be.
they sound similar.
Might be. No, I thought Troy McClure. I thought Troy McClure was also
Brannigan.
Phil Hartman, wasn't he? Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe Phil Hartman plays.
But no, he doesn't.
Everywhere.
No, he doesn't. No, he's gone now. He passed late 90s, early
yeah,
2000s.
Yeah, that's a fucking tragic story.
Yeah, his
too.
wife-
Wife killed him.
Killed him.
and-
Shot
Sorry,
him.
Rob.
Huh?
I didn't mean to pour one out on the floor, but Phil Hartman.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
At least we're in the basement.
Yeah, right.
Okay, my official answer to your question
Okay.
is Lionel Hutz.
Lionel
What about
Hutz.
yours?
I'm gonna go with Mr. Burns.
Okay.
Mr. Burns
That's
cracks
solid.
me up
That's
because
solid.
he's so evil. Like he's so. Yeah, and then he's also made of paper mache.
Yeah.
He can die in one hit, but he runs Springfield.
Right.
And he's got his minions. He's got Smithers working for him, and he's always lording over Homer.
Yeah.
Blocks out the sun.
He kind of represents that boss everybody maybe has met once or twice, and
Yeah.
His lines are really good
Well-
too. He's got some good ones.
Because he's got the old time talk too. Like I was watching the one, it's 22 short films
Okay.
on Spring, and it's just pretty much all but Smithers and Burns are riding a bike. Well, Smithers is obviously and he gets stung by the bee.
Oh, is it like a tandem bike?
Yeah. He gets stung by the bees. I gotta go to the hospital. Pedal faster, but he just has that old. The old
time-
Sounds like he's from
yes,
1930.
the old
Smithers, hand me my pantaloons.
Yeah.
You can fetch
Well-
me. We're gonna have fisticuffs.
And
Yeah, fisticuffs.
and Harry Shearer is so fucking funny too.
Yeah.
And this is if we were doing an episode about just The Simpsons, which the bulk of this has been, but we're talking about Matt Groening specifically.
Sure.
But if we were just talking about The Simpsons, we could dive into all of the voice actors.
Okay, I was getting ready to say because I don't think it's fair that we talk about The Simpsons without talking about Frank Azaria.
Wait, real
Hank
quick, Mr.
Azaria.
Burns.
Hank Azaria.
If I had
Yes.
a nickel for every time I've said "release the hounds."
Yes. Well, see,
Yeah.
Harry Shearer,
Classic.
Hank Azaria, Dan Castellaneta.
Yeah. I think he's probably Hank Azaria is probably my Azaria. Whatever.
I've heard it pronounced both ways.
How did you guys feel about them canceling Apu?
I was just talking about this today, and I don't want to say because I'm afraid of getting canceled
Canceling
myself.
Apu?
Apu.
Apu.
I'll say I don't think it's right. You don't cancel Apu.
Okay, I am gonna take the pussy route and second him. I'm glad he said it first.
So I'm also in agreement.
He's a beloved character.
I like the
man.
character.
Yeah. I don't
Can't
know.
just pretend he didn't exist.
I think we go just a little too far with the sensitivity.
Yeah, And it's and I'll come back to like the Tropic Thunder with fucking
Robert Downey Jr.
With Robert Downey Jr.
Okay, can I interject for a second and say that it's like really convenient and easy for straight white males
sure
to like say like, oh, everybody's too sensitive, you know what I mean? Like maybe we just don't have that perspective.
Yeah, I can.
I'm playing devil's advocate.
But what I'm saying is,
honestly,
when it's done right, and I never really looked at Apu as a stereo. I mean, he is, but I never looked at it as a
but I didn't see it that way.
I never looked at it that way.
You're right.
He was just the convenience store.
Okay, I'm glad you said something because you've been quiet, and I was like, no, you need to say something too.
I had no problem.
You need to agree with this because if one of us is going down, we're all fucking going down. You're not going to spin off and be like, I had nothing to do with it.
I mean, they got, in one of the episodes, they covered like the culture and everything and like the religion and all that, you know, and maybe they were making fun of it. I don't remember, but I do remember being like, okay, that's an interesting...
Okay,
because I don't think they ever did anything.
There's nothing mean-spirited about it. Yeah,
there was never a joke made about like the Indian culture. It was just that he was Indian.
So let's compare that character to another character from
Homer
something else. So I know that it's the fact that it's a white guy voicing him because again, like you said, it's Hank Azaria, who's honestly probably one of the most underrated comedic actors.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother story. If you've ever seen The Birdcage, all right, I'll move on. But what about? And we talked about Mike Judge, Office Space, Samir.
Yeah.
Now that actor was of the same nationality. So is that insensitive?
Right.
Maybe not. But isn't that kind of up to him?
I have a hard time with these conversations because Matthew McConaughey put it good. He's like, what tickles me might bruise others. Like, I have a pretty thick skin for a lot of stuff. And even when it's coming in my direction, I don't know, you get enough multicultural burns on you, you find out it's all like, people are just... I feel like there's an oversensitivity to the Apu situation, like, especially because there's two ways to split this for me. One is, do you get rid of what already happened and you go back and like retroactively delete the history, which I don't agree with.
Yeah.
Right.
The second question becomes, do you do Apu in 2024?
Yeah.
And I'd say maybe there's more room for me personally in a conversation there, like, do you redo that character the same way you did that character?
Yeah.
In my opinion, you could. That's just how I feel about it. But I could also see where people might get offended because people do get sensitive about like any kind of thing that gets near a stereotype. Whether that stereotype is there for like, a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, stereotypes, maybe you don't want to stereotype, but sometimes, I mean, why did they pick Apu to begin with? Is it true that sometimes during this time period you walked in and there were like a bunch of Asian Quickie Marts all over the place? Why is that there?
Right.
I can't just deny that happened. That's a piece of culture.
Okay.
So,
but
that's my.
But can I also
stance on it.
say even nowadays I've been in a lot of those convenience stores and liquor stores and things like that are owned by Middle Eastern men, and they're some of my favorite fucking places, dude. Because those guys like. Usually like they're cool guys.
Shout out to Baraz.
Yeah.
And,
and
like, it's fun to ask Bara what he thinks. You ever tried that? That's fun.
Yeah.
Ask people. One of the best conversations I have is when you talk to somebody who's in one of these races that is quote canceling and ask them what their opinion is.
Yeah.
Right.
Great conversations to have.
Yeah.
Have those conversations.
Yeah.
It'll broaden your perspective.
And one of my favorite things about a lot of those guys is they don't take any shit. Have you ever been in one of those stores when somebody's trying to pull some bullshit?
Yeah, you want to pay with change?
And they're like, get the fuck out of my store. And I'm like, yeah, get the fuck out of his store. I agree with him. And like, it's like, he owns this bitch and that's his take on the matter. And I agree with him and I support him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Apu, he's a small business owner and he's got a fucking army of a family to feed. Doesn't he have like 9 children or something?
Right.
Yeah.
The octuplets are...
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know.
I mean, to cancel him would be to cancel a common story for a lot of Indians that had that adventure coming here to America, opening a business,
like you said,
integrating into a community. Yeah. You don't just cancel that. That's someone's life.
Right.
Like you said.
Who are they to say what's right?
Why, is it a stereotype for a reason? And it's not a negative stereotype.
Mm-mm.
It's not. And that's why I bring up the fact that, like, he's a business owner and he's a family man.
Boy's an entrepreneur.
He's an entrepreneur, and
he's like a dedicated family man. Like he suffered to support his family. Like he ate some shit.
And like Nate said, that's a story that a lot of people have lived, and those guys are the exact same way.
Think of it like this too. What other Indian character do they have that comes to mind in the show?
Yeah.
If you want to talk about proper representation, okay, let's keep him in there because he fills out the rainbow of races, so to speak. You cut him, you're cutting out culture. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe this is too much of a tangent, but yeah.
No, that's all right. We've run the gambit of just about everything. Well, not even quite, dude. Honestly, when it comes to The Simpsons and Matt Groening's body of work in general, I don't even think we've scratched the surface. We could talk for days.
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many.
With Futurama, did Futurama catch like the nerd love, like
I think it did.
It became cool to be a nerd.
I think it did.
And like,
that was around that time. Point. Yeah,
yep.
Would they
definitely?
Did they just catch that, or do you think they helped popular? Make being nerdy and
I think they just helped it. I think
I would say they helped it. Yeah,
yeah. I think it definitely helped.
Yeah,
right. Because that started in like '99.
Yeah,
and you really got to be kind of nerdy to really get and appreciate a lot of the jokes. On
a lot
Futurama.
of references and
a lot of technology riffs in there. Right, they're talking about. They had a whole episode where they released a tiny AI self-building robot on a planet. It started consuming the resources on the planet, and they'd hide in a cave. And then they opened the cave door the next day, and it would evolve super fast overnight. I think it was like 2 or 3 days in, they had a city. 4 days in, they like left the planet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like Star Trek humor.
Yeah.
And that's another way to look at that. It's kind of like Star Trek was a very serious show during those, like Star Trek Next Generation 80s, just up to the 90s, Simpsons 90s, 2000s.
Love the Next Generation.
But Star Trek wasn't like super funny. Picard would rip a joke and you're like, haha, that was hilarious, Picard. Let me finish my tea.
There were some data moments that were humorous.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. It's true. But I feel like the Simpsons Futurama pulls the stops out. Like, people are getting their torsos crushed from too much snoo. Like
right.
One of my favorite episodes.
Some aliens, but
they're like, yeah,
like that.
And they're like all excited about it, and they're like, no, yes, no. Like, I feel you on that.
Another underrated character in Futurama, I think, Kip.
Kip is probably one of my favorites.
Kip. I think he's easy to discount as a character, but when you really look at like the humor of the show, you're like, he's fucking funny, dude. Like, as a character, just like the writing of that, especially when he gets pregnant.
Yeah, he's pregnant with like Amy's baby.
The newscaster.
So great.
Oh, the big green alien.
Yeah.
There's like a little like perky blonde human and then a big old like green alien monster. Is that?
I don't know. I'd have to if you're talking that Hypnotoad.
Okay. So Nate asked this.
Hypnotoad.
So Nate asked the question about The Simpsons. If you're gonna pick like your favorite side character, so who's your favorite side character from Futurama? And I have one that pops to mind immediately.
Right. I'll say this guy because he comes to mind immediately. There's the I don't even know the guy's name, but you know who I'm talking about. He's the guy who shows up with the trucker hat and the wife beater, and like he's always nappy and he's fixing. Yeah, he's always ogling at the dames, and he's like, I'm gonna fix the Carsuses, and that guy cracks me up because, being from the East, I know so many folks with like that kind of accent.
Yeah.
And he's got that kind of Boston kind of East Side accent, and he's all like, wowzes.
Wowzes.
Yeah, that guy cracks me up.
My friend
kind of talks like that.
Yeah, that guy.
My friend Matt and I quote, there's a quote that we do all the time from him, and it's him and Leela. It's a back and forth, and he goes, nice eyeball, and she goes, nice ass. And we'll do that all the time, just randomly. Yeah, so I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, it's funny watching Leela slap him down afterwards, and it's good stuff.
Mine is not too far from that. I would say Scruffy.
Scruffy
the janitor is my favorite. Yeah. Yep. Scruffy cares about this company. He's like the main shareholder of Planet Express.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they're like, "How did you do that?" He's like, "Scruffy believes in this company.
Scruffy believes in this company." And he like wipes a tear away. Scruffy's hands down my favorite.
That episode is just really good. I mean, God, there's so many of those episodes.
The guy with the bonitis.
Yeah, the bonitis.
Yes.
My only regret is that I didn't cure my bonitis.
Oh, the 80s guy.
Yeah, the 80s guy. Yeah. Dut, 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 dut. What about you? You Scruffy too?
Scruffy, like I said, the newscaster.
Oh yeah, the green one.
Yeah.
Morbo? Was that his name?
Morbo.
Okay,
that's
yeah.
right.
Morbo is sticky and unpleased.
It will rain on puny humans.
Oh man.
I was like the one where the brains come out, and the that's the second one. The brains invade the planet. And Fry's like, think fast, and he's like, I always think fast.
Yeah.
And splashes him with the water.
Fry's the only person like with the like a low enough amount of brain activity.
Right.
So like, yeah, that's.
How about you, Rob?
I was probably gonna say Calculon.
Oh,
Calculon.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
great
Oh, there's a lot of good robot.
Yeah,
characters.
Calculon. I mean, because he's
The Don Bot.
Don, but that'd be a good. That's a
Don
good.
Bot's a good
Yeah.
one
Give him the
too.
clamps.
Yeah.
Who's that guy in the? He's got like the orgy pit. What's that guy's name?
Oh, Hedonism Bot.
Hedonism
Yeah.
bot. Somebody needs to butter the orgy pits.
I love Flexo too.
Flexo's.
Flexo's
yeah,
like he's just
yeah.
like the nicest like, guy ever.
Yeah, out of like the random ones on it, because he's in a lot of the episodes and he's just a phony and just I don't know. Like
Flexo's great.
What about the
Who is the crazy
Santa
robot?
Claus?
Santa Claus. Is
Oh,
great.
yeah.
That's, wasn't John Goodman the voice of Santa Claus?
He might be. It sounds like.
I think he was. Who was like the copper colored robot that like stabs people?
What was it? Anthony or something?
I don't remember.
Oh, is it? It's not Antoine. Is it?
It might be Antoine.
I thought it started with an R.
Roberto? It's not. No.
Roberto.
Maybe.
I'm gonna
Can
give
you
a
look that
stand.
up
We'll
or
look
here?
at
You know
this
what? I
tonight.
got us.
Snap. I know who
us.
you're talking about.
Yeah. I can picture him.
There's so many good robots now.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Once I didn't even think about the robot side characters really until Rob brought up
Calculon.
Calculon.
Or you got like Richard Nixon's head.
And Agnew.
Yeah.
Beck was on there.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's Roberto.
Roberto.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Roberto.
Okay.
Yeah,
He's got the big round.
Yeah. He's like
Yeah.
copper colored. He's always got a knife. Yeah.
And that reminds me of the episode that Fry goes and he's in like the fucking like robot psych ward and he gets sheltered with that guy.
Isn't that the first one where he? Isn't that the first one where we're introduced to him?
It might be.
Yeah, I think so.
It might be.
I think so.
Yeah, he has to share a closet.
I mean,
man, there's so much good stuff there.
I was gonna say
Bender, of course, but he's core canon.
Yeah.
One of my favorite episodes where Bender's probably the main character of this is where you guys remember an episode where Bender's out in space.
Yeah.
And a colony forms on
That
his
is
Yes.
probably my
He's like
all-time
God.
favorite.
he's like God.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is probably one of my
Yeah.
old.
That's a good one.
I would make that my favorite episode.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
What a great
'Cause
episode.
he has him start a brewery. So you can drink beer.
Bender's one of those characters that like like there's a lot of them in the Simpsons too, but like he's one of those like you could just throw a little quote out there, and it just kind of sticks and you're like, oh, that's a classic Bender. One of my favorite like little quotes is there's like I think they're in like a van or something and it's like brakes are out, it's like a runaway car and they're about to like fly off of like a broken bridge and Bender's like, I'll save me. Like that's like one of my favorites. Like makes me laugh every time.
Yeah,
guys-
his scrupulousness is hilarious.
I think we're gonna wrap it up, man. For Matt Groening, dude. This has been an awesome episode.
Yeah.
To Matt,
Good discussion. Cheers.
great first name.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
so
he's a genius and a revolutionary.
So next up, are we doing the 60s next episode? So
Yeah, man.
1960s.
1960s. So
Love.
guys, be sure to tune in for the next episode. And
Yeah,
once
man.
again, be sure to like, follow, subscribe, mention us to all your friends. And
Tell a friend.
Please.
Tell a friend.
We'll see you next time.
Whoop whoop.